Last time, on Asmiliath adventures. As the pale worm that festered inside the intestines of Ziggurat the Knight draws its final breath, our heroes find themselves knee-deep in the muck and vile that drove the horrid parasite. After confirming its demise, our party work to gather themselves, having to slither and crawl over the somewhat deflated carcass of their recently slayed foe. Finally making their way past its incredible length, and covered in head to toe with its innards, our heroes get their first real glimpse at the end of their journey. Descending down a lengthy flight of obsidian stairs, their singular torch dancing in the rippled walls, our heroic party are eventually greeted with the massive chamber that holds an ominous cauldron and an imposing beast. Before their questions can escape their lips, their minds are collectively filled with overpowering tone of Ziggurat the Knight, asking the strange band of mortals why they had found their way to his sanctuary. A small and careful dialogue goes back and forth between the ancient being and the Golden Hearts, the party being informed that they really only had three options going forward. If they wanted to acquire the piece of Torodan that had been hidden here, they'd have to slay the mighty guardian of the sanctuary, trade something of equal value, or plunge their arm willingly into acid in hopes of pulling out what they truly desired. Our heroes argued amongst themselves what the best course of action would be, putting forth various thoughts and ideas until Decker took the initiative, throwing his arm into the acid and pulling out a mutilated bit of flesh and a mysterious platinum crown. Shocked that the piece had not been what he sought most, the dashing rogue fainted from the sight of his wound. Not wanting to play the game that Ziggurat had laid out, Valoran takes the lead next and orders Thor to march back up the cave and strike at the ancient dragon's heart. Before the party descends down a path where they could not return, Jarek interrupts and steps forward. Understanding that any other choice carried a great deal of risk for not only the party, but also the important mission they had pursued, Jarek offers up his own soul in exchange for the peace. There is a somber and touching moment deep beneath the surface of Asmiliath, as our heroes come to terms with handing over one of their own, saying their goodbyes to a companion that had been there since the beginning. Once the Golden Hearts made their peace, Jarek was absorbed into the vague energy of Ziggurat, disappearing from this world before a shriveled torso appeared in the sanctuary. Understanding the deal had been done and their mission had been achieved, our injured heroes depart the depths of the dragon and return back to the world above. A week of mostly silent travel wades by as our heroes trudge their way back out of the swamps of Liamis and find themselves at the small town of Black Hollow. The party knows there is important business to catch up on, having been away from civilization for almost a month, but this evening was dedicated to remembering a dear friend. As the banquet to honor Jarek winds its way down, and all the stories and songs have been said, Valoran removes himself from the festivities and seeks out a quiet place to go through his evening prayers. It is February 10th, as Lord Athelvane stands in a small clearing by himself, glaive firmly grasped in his hand, as the distant sound of the nocturnal swamp drifts across his ears. Unbeknownst to him, a small traveler stares up at the stars nearby, before double-checking his direction and plunging through the dense shrubbery. So, Valoran, you are somewhat out on the outskirts of Black Hollow. You could probably still vaguely hear the celebrations of the banquet kind of, rolling across the field towards you, but for the current moment, you are left to go through whatever ritual or prayer or process that you do each evening.
At the time being, I'm just standing, looking up, sort of leaning on the glaive and meditating on the last message, the last vision from Erovica. I've begun getting used to receiving signs at this point. And so just thinking about it, watching the sky.
Go ahead and give me a wisdom check real quick. Okay. So Valorant, as you've gotten into a fairly decent rhythm at this point, this being a pattern in your day for quite some time, you've stared up at the stars for maybe about an hour or so throughout the various stages of your prayer. Also being removed from the swamp for the first time in, about a month, I guess I can say. The stars are a bit more clear, a bit more bright, a bit more discernible up in the sky. It is only evening at this point. It's maybe about 7 or 8. It's not quite nighttime at this point. But as you are staring up at a small constellation that, you would somewhat recognize either in the teachings when you were younger, some passing bit of knowledge that you learned along the road, you would see it shimmer just a little bit brighter to the point where it kind of catches your vision, draws your attention, and you would hear, not coming from any sort of external source, but almost kind of drifting like a whisper across like the back of your neck, this very faint, almost indiscernible voice, and it just goes, "A sign." And as that slips into your ears, Clay, you would find yourself walking into this clearing, that same constellation that you were staring up at, glowing a bit brighter as you break free and get clear vision on it, and as you kind of acknowledge its small shimmer, you would also catch the rather imposing humanoid figure standing about 20 or 30 feet forward in the center of the clearing.
So as Clay enters the clearing, he has adopted his starry form in the form of the archer, so his joints are lit up, small traces of energy line between the points and shimmer. He has one hand out, and before you stands a very small and relatively thin gnome. He has this sharp pointed hat pulled down real low. A black cloak goes around him that almost seems to shimmer. And this big twined red beard poking out from beneath his nose. He's wearing a half plate mithril armor that's this nice pale silver. And as he steps out glowing, he has his discs up, these crystalline discs held together by a string, and he's kind of looking at them compared to the sky, looks down to the human and, "Well, hello there."
Good evening.
I have to ask, have you noticed any interesting changes from the heavens? I've been tracking anomalies, and I can't seem to figure out exactly where they seem to be leading me.
I don't think that I'm well enough informed to comment on changes, but if you're asking whether I saw that too, yes, I did.
And he'll collapse the discs all onto each other as a stack and reattach them around his wrists. Well, traveler, I suppose you might be the one I seek. If you've seen these also, the others I've asked. Many of the birds and the beasts out in the forest, they, of course, don't look up enough, but my apologies, where are my manners? My name is, and he'll take a short bow, Clake Deeploam III of the Shevlin's Chosen.
Chosen?
Oh, you've heard of the Order.
Hasn't everyone?
I find the lower provinces of these well, rather meager countries, tend to be somewhat ill-informed.
Well, I'm not from here. But you say you're looking for me.
I've seen signs. They do not match my charts, and he'll jiggle the line of discs. Something is afoot. Something I've not
Indeed.
seen before.
Well,
Tell me, sir, who are you?
I am Valor Nathelvane, a Count of Folk, and a member of the Golden Hearts Company.
Hey, you want to give me a history check? Let's see if you can break the wheel. Hey, that's my boy. In your travels, being a bit more well-traveled as a Pruidian than most because of being one of the Chevalars chosen, you would have heard maybe vague rumors about the Golden Hearts, whether or not they're good stories or ones that put them in a particularly good light is somewhat questionable, but the passing knowledge that you would probably hear is that they are a mercenary group that has been sponsored by Duke Bronze. Probably the latest news that you would have heard. Nothing about their most recent events, so that would be what kind of comes to mind.
Ah, Count Athelvane. Yes, I've heard of your group. I believe your patron was Duke Braun, last I had heard.
Before his untimely passing. That's correct.
Oh. When did he pass?
It was only recently. Relatively recently. Matter of weeks. No. Wait.
It's been a couple months.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
Um,
The swamp does crazy things.
all this travel time.
Yeah.
Relatively recently.
Ah, well, my deepest condolences to you. Well, my lord, if it's all the same to you, as much as I enjoy the outdoors, I do enjoy a fire. May I join you this evening?
Why not?
And he'll dismiss his starry form and do a quick hand gesture, and a little ball of fire springs forth, casting light. Well, please, sir, lead the way.
Valoran turns to start walking, but he never quite gives Clay his back. He sort of keeps corner of his eye on him.
So, Thor and Decker, during the kind of winding down segment of Jarek's banquet, what would you two be doing?
I assume, we're still there with the celebration, correct?
I mean, yeah, you could either still be in the tavern, enjoying the festivities, or you could have found a moment to slip away and do something else. It's mostly up to you.
Yeah, I probably would be like closer to the caravan as things are like winding down, just getting ready for the night. Hopefully Buffy is there, and if not, I'm just sitting there by myself, flicking the strings of my newly found lute. Yep.
Okay. And Decker?
Who's the cleric that we have in our party?
The healer?
Yeah, the healer.
Yeah, that would be Lavelle.
And yeah, she's not a cleric. She's just a healer. What are?
Yeah, she's more of a kind of naturalist healer, right? She calls upon arcane power versus any sort of divine power, using herbs and ointments and other knowledge as well to help assist her healing capabilities.
Yeah, I would try to find her.
Yeah, I mean, she'd
Is
probably
she-
still be checking up on your arm occasionally to see if she could make it any better, but at this point it's kind of resting where it will until a more expert healer takes a look at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But is she at the party?
Yeah, she probably would have partaken a little bit and then retired to the caravan. She's not a very social butterfly, I guess you could say, so you'd probably find yourself at the caravan with her if you seeked her out.
Yeah, I just uh Lavelle, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I didn't properly thank you for the work you've done. My hand is quite functional now.
She kind of like, pulls the sleeve of your arm up a little bit to kind of inspect some of the gray, crackly skin that still shows off what had occurred. And she gives it almost kind of like a sorrowful glance before, looking up at you. I don't think that gratitude is necessary. I feel rather guilty that I wasn't able to do more. But I'm always happy to help in whatever way that the party needs.
How long have you been doing what you're doing? How long have you been a healer?
Well, my mother was the one who began teaching me, and then I just kind of naturally began following in her footsteps, I guess you could say. She's off up north. I think she's a healer for a lord. I probably should send her a letter soon. But it's hard to give an exact amount, but I guess 50 years, somewhere in that range, when I was very, very young.
Have you ever met anyone who started late?
You mean learning healing starting late? Of course. There's a lot of renowned healers that found their calling later in life. There's a lot of healers that persist much longer than they would have after finding their focus. Are you interested in the subject?
I find myself more in need of healing than I usually have in my life, and it's always good to have as many people as possible to help when it's absolutely necessary. So yes, I believe I am.
You'd be surprised the overlap between retired adventurers and grizzled old healers. It's rather large. There's perhaps something to that. But I could always lend you whatever knowledge or notes that I have, whatever pursuits that I am currently pursuing, if that's something that would find interesting.
Yes, absolutely. We'll talk more. I just was curious. Thank you, Libet.
Of course. If you need any more rest or easing of the pain to sleep, just let me know. You know where to find me.
Sure, and if you need any help, I'll be happy to lend a hand. Good night.
Very funny. And then she kind of starts walking off.
I'd head back to go have another drink by myself.
Okay. So, Valorant and Clay, whatever direction you were heading towards at this point, whether it's the tavern or the caravan, it's kind of up to you. I guess you would meet Decker at the tavern or Thor at the caravan.
I believe I'd be leading him where the others currently are, so the tavern.
Okay. So, as you guys march back into the Black Pit, we're now talking, maybe 8, 9 in the evening / night. A lot of people have found accommodations for the night or found a partner for the night, and the actual main room just kind of holds the dregs of the banquet and the, various townspeople that were kind of roped into the celebration. So you would very easily be able to seek out Decker probably in the middle of the room, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Working on a beverage by himself.
So I would lead Clay over there pretty much straight away, and say, and as I'm getting within earshot of Decker, I would add, so Mr. Deeploam, you said you were looking for me or for us, but I'd be interested to know some details.
Well, I wasn't certain exactly what I was looking for, but given that you've seen the signs that I've been following, there's a good chance the heavens themselves have fated this meeting. They do know all and see all. And he'll do kind of this, like, 3 fingers down from the forehead gesture that has this practiced look, some kind of superstitious or religious value for him. I can
So
only
this
hope
wasn't.
that, oh, pardon my lord. Do what?
This wasn't a directive of the Chosen, then.
A directive. And with the
You were sent here by them. You're following the stars.
No, the Chosen themselves are, and a little hint of disdain will cross his face under the hat. No, the Chosen find themselves distracted with other matters. I am lucky to be part of a legacy that allows me some freedom where I can actually do some good and be out in the world. I've known many things hunting beasts across the years, but nothing in my charts explain what I've seen in the sky. And recently, much more recently, things have become unusually active.
I am not surprised. Decker Caspian, this is Clake Deeploam III.
A pleasure to meet you, sir. How do you prefer to be addressed?
Oh, please, just Clay. Thank you.
Just Decker. Nice to meet you.
And did I hear that right? Caspian. The family of...
Yes, I belong.
A lord? And I'm sorry, what was his title? Alderman?
Yeah, he's an alderman's son, yeah.
Okay, yeah. The son of an alderman of Liamus. That's...
Fated under the stars.
Well, I dare say.
Well, Blake, what are you drinking tonight?
And they'll spy around at the tables and whatnot. Ale if you have it.
I don't have any extra, but I'm sure the barmaid does. And I'd whistle and order
So as
around.
you kind of turn from the table and raise a hand, Decker, you would catch the familiar sight of Brandon Campbellton kind of walking towards you all. He has a few mugs in his hand, and he sits down, beside you at the table, laying them all out. You can also add the bastard son of a king to that list. It's growing quite extensively.
I'm feeling quite less and less important as the list goes on. Clay, are you are you in line of a throne of somewhere? A gnome kingdom of sorts?
No, nothing so prestigious. My family has been part of the Chosen since near its founding, but
The who?
for the most part, Shoveler's Chosen.
Have I have heard of them?
You certainly would have heard of them. In Liamis, it's probably the region they might be active in the least. But you would have heard of what they are. They're, this order that was established to hunt down the remnants that came out of the Great Entrance, various beasts and monsters, things of that nature. So you would know what they do. You might not know details of who they are and how they function.
Dare say you might have the more interesting existence of all of us. Sure, you'll regale us with many stories. Take our minds off of recent troubles.
Troubles, but this seems to be, well, what seems to be a celebration.
It's a remembrance.
Awake.
The person who we're speaking of would probably normally be sitting where you're at right now. At least 1 or 2 cups too deep in drink and probably making some bumble or another. But we do miss him.
My deepest condolences. I will offer my prayers tonight.
As Sir Campbellton kind of pushes an ale over to you, he looks over at Valoran nearby, kind of nodding his head towards him. Lord, whenever you are ready, I have gotten information from Giggles, whenever you want to catch up on what you have missed.
Indeed, let us not delay. And Valoran stands up to go.
I mean, no offense, but is he privy to our conversations, or this man you've just brought that I've never met before?
Oh, I intended to speak to Sir Campbellton privately.
It's for the best. Clake will keep drinking while they speak privately.
Well, won't say no to that. Oh,
No offense, I just, this is
Somewhere,
the moment.
somewhere away from the crowd, Sir Campbellton.
Did you not want to gather the companions, or I guess you could pass along whatever information I have gathered?
I'll fill them in.
Oh, certainly,
And
sir.
he kind of gives a sideways glance.
So Campbellton would then lead you outside and, find some adequate place that's far enough away from everyone to disclose information. You want to do that now, sir?
Sure.
Okay. So we would actually pull out a small notebook that he has actually taken somewhat diligent notes in. He starts kind of flipping through the pages, looking at the dates. Oh, well, it's been quite some time that you've all been away. I was trying to give you the respectful amount of time for Master Dissel. Let's see, the first thing that Giggles, do you want me to use his proper name? He actually prefers Giggles, which I found rather peculiar, but, anyway, that doesn't matter. The first bit of information he passed along, he checked in on the quarantine in Kraylin, that has been cancelled. The illness supposedly has, I guess, found its natural end, though the populace is rather devastated, after the fact, but Lady Alarice has found her way home, which is from our benefit, I guess, and is taking over reconstruction of Kraylin, however that will go. I know that Thor was very interested in his clan and potentially where it might be located. I don't have any exact details on that. It hasn't been spotted as the Rockhammer clan, I think, is where he is from. But there are peculiar raids from a Goliath warband north of the Little Pine River, up in the Pruid area, and the Pruids are claiming that folk have sent the Goliaths across the border to harass them, and rumors and speculation at this point, but at least the raids seem to be real, so there's some information there. The war between Giles and Rozhmazev has found its way to a start. I will have to put in here that I knew going on this mission I'd have to bow out of this conflict, but just so you are aware, it is difficult for me to not be there with my father during this trying time. But sorry, emotions aside, the Battle of the Fringe Field is what they've been calling it. A victory for Giles, though it was rather costly. The Easterners attempted a blitz towards our capital in a combined naval assault, which we repelled, but for how long is unsure, and there are mysterious raids of unnamed men on our northern border that we suspect are Pruitt agents, but that's nothing surprising. I think that is all of the major events, and of course I have other smaller things if you are curious.
Always curious. And I can sympathize. There's a part of me that would like nothing better than to take some fight to Rozhmazev.
I mean, the other minor things that might be worth mentioning is Folk and Liamis have dissolved their official alliance. They're now neutral, I guess you can say, versus being combined. Many people are saying that's due to the disintegration of the coalition that Duke Braun was the head of during his time. It seems that all of the southern factions are finding it difficult to play nice in the small sandbox that we call home. The Pruitt Empire seems to be busy. There have been reports of various spies and networks and groups that only vaguely connected to the Empire seem to be acting in their best interest. So that is a constant whack-a-mole project that our kingdom has been facing, and thankfully, the only good news I guess I can say throughout all of this is the beasts down in the Thea seem to be silent, or at least appear to be silent, which is probably some great deal or strike of luck for us, because if there is a war on the southern border, gods only know how long we would be able to hold out.
I'm disappointed to hear of the difficulty between Liamis and Folk.
Do you want my a personal opinion, Lord?
Of course.
Folk, I know it's your homeland, so take whatever I say with a grain of salt. From my understanding and what I have interacted with during my time and traveling there occasionally, they've always danced on the line between the Empire and southern Asmiliath. While they have been friendly to Giles' kingdom and Liamis in their time, they have always had their roots buried deep in the Empire that they separated from quite some time ago. I would not be surprised if, when they saw the way the tree was falling as far as the Empire versus Giles, if they would just not elect to fall on the winning side.
I understand.
I know it's a rather secondary task that my father placed upon you to try and grease the palms of the political factions we find ourselves with, but finding a way to secure Folk as an ally to Giles' kingdom would be priceless at this point, my lord.
I tend to agree. Both in terms of stemming the aggression of Rozhmazev and Pruitt, as well as the existential threat of Tordan.
Quite the pecking order of world-altering events that we find ourselves dancing with.
Right. If you don't mind, I don't intend to make an errand boy of you, but if you could ask Mr. Giggles to task some of our hand to check on Corel.
Seems like a good choice. I will certainly allocate some men in that direction, sir.
They could just look in on it on their way to somewhere else, but there's some question in my mind lately as to the state of affairs there.
Well, if it is your will, I will see it through.
Thank you. Anything else?
That is the majority that I was given. Of course, you could go deal with Giggles yourself if you want more, but you'd be there for a while.
That's sufficient for now. I'm more concerned about this newcomer in our midst.
Gnomes always left me feeling a little bit weary.
I believe I know what you mean. I'll return to the rest then, if there's nothing else.
Oh, that is it. If there's anything else that you need from me, sir, just let me know.
And everybody can assume that Valorn passes all that along at the whatever the earliest opportunity is. And I wrote it down in the chat as well.
I would have talked to Giggles personally, so I may have gotten a little more of the director's cut of that. But
Sure, yeah, that works. All right. So, however, Decker and Clay want to proceed their gathering, I guess. I mean, the main event or scene that has to happen at some point this evening is the party getting together and deciding a way forward. So, however you all want to facilitate that, we can figure that one out.
No, Master Decker, I understand what you're saying here. Human women are very nice. Personally, a little tall for my tastes. If you ever have the chance, some of the hospitality of Bronshard can be enjoyed quite thoroughly, but depends on your taste. I can't deny that one.
They don't tend to run that way, but I appreciate the tip. So, why are you here? I mean, not that you shouldn't be, but...
Well, I was hunting down some monstrosity.
What sort of monstrosity?
Well, best as I could tell, possibly, I don't know, maybe it was a fae or something demonic, something that had slipped loose. I was lucky and found where it was biding its time, and thankfully was able to knock a boulder off of the mountain and crush the thing. Later
So
that night.
you killed it, but you don't know what it was.
Well, as I tracked it, it left odd signs, very odd signs.
But you killed it.
Always, once it was smashed flat, it was a little harder to tell exactly what was left.
I see. I hunt things for a living too, or I did before I joined this band. I usually knew exactly what I was hunting before I left.
I can only hope whatever organization you were part of was well managed.
I was a ranger of Ukin, but that's beside the point. So you came here on the directives of the Chevaliers Chosen to seek our group?
No. I was doing what I was supposed to, trying to put down beasts that were threatening the populace, and one night, this strange phenomenon. I can't explain how or why, but it was as though the stars themselves wished to rearrange, as though they had grown bored in their millennia of stationary patience, and it was beyond scope of anything I had seen. So I consulted my charts, tried to figure out where they may have been, congregating, pointing, trying to figure out what in the nine hells had just happened. You may be aware of this. They don't move. They are
Not
infinite.
an astrologer. I'll take your word on it. But
But I followed the signs, and strange things kept happening. And just as I happened to be heading this direction, I bumped into your friend there, Lord Athelvane.
guess we're all lucky to have met each other's company. I'm sorry, I find myself quite out of sorts. Apologize for seeming hostile. It was not my intention.
No
Have
worries.
you seen a large Goliath walking about?
Not since I crossed through the Servat.
He is a member of our party, and I'd very much like to introduce you to, just if for no other reason, to see the comparison between the two of you. He's rather large, and you're rather not.
Well, wait. Humans, Goliaths? Odd company you keep? Y'all usually don't have such pleasant relations.
He's quite companionable. Rather a bit of a softie, really.
Well, that would explain why he's not with his clan then.
Yes, I think they thoroughly beat him and threw him out. But that's a story for him to tell, or not. I should not have let that slip. I'd look around to see if Thor is anywhere around yet.
Would you still be at the caravan, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of chilling there, expecting everybody to eventually wind down back there.
So the night progresses, you're like, where the fuck is it?
Yeah, I'm like, everybody's gone, and I thought we all were gonna meet at this spot. But yeah, I'd just be strumming the lute, I'd like to attempt to strike up a conversation with Dog at some point, or see if I can.
Okay. Go ahead and give me a wisdom check. Okay.
On some top rolls.
As the evening progresses, and you kind of are, you're just outside the tavern, off in the stables where the caravan's kind of been set up. You would see, the residual amount of townsfolk kind of drifting from the tavern and back to their homes, still kind of plucking away on your loot somewhat successfully. But as you're still left alone and you're kind of glancing down at your non-existent watch and just kind of waiting longer and longer for your companions to never show up, your boredom spawns an attempt to just reach out at the distant being of power that had almost resuscitated your companion for quite some time. And unsure where you're reaching or how you're reaching or who you're reaching, you just cast a line out into the stars, just seeing what might come back. There's several moments of silence as you put forth whatever words or thoughts or feelings that you have. Before you feel the wood of the lute grow a bit warm under the touch of your fingers. Just the softest bit of warmth that's really only noticeable due to the chill of the air. And it's just very slight, very quick, just a small pulse that kind of almost makes your fingers tingle ever so slightly. And then it fades.
Oh my gosh, I have the tingle power with so many gods. I'm basically the best communicator ever. Well, I'm not sure if I'm talking to Dog or not. But, I just wanted to kind of know what was up with you and JD. Because, like, apparently you brought him back from dying. And, like, you know, I wanted to see maybe if we could do that again. That'd be pretty neat because I miss him. And all I have is this lute that I don't know how to play. I just want to talk to somebody else who knew him probably a little deeper than most everybody else did. Except for maybe Holaski. Maybe. I don't know, if you ever want to converse with me, I have a bear. You can talk to that. But I think Naturain may have that one taken. I have Carl. He doesn't talk yet, so could make that work. And, well, then there's the lute. The lute could talk too. Hold it up and pause. Alright. Maybe one day, Dog. Maybe one day. I'll proceed forward to get the information. Just on my walk back, waiting for people.
Would it be fair that the party would find themselves in the tavern since two of the companions are nestled in there? Okay. So, Clay, as you are discussing with Decker this companion that he has built up, you glance behind you to hear the doors swing open, and you see a mountain of a warrior filling the door frame. His arms are probably bigger than you are, and in his clutches is this tiny toy lute that seems like it's going to snap in the faintest shift of his hand. And you just see him kind of like jauntily walking into the tavern before heading towards Decker.
Oh, hey, Decker, how's it going?
Hello, Thor. We were just speaking of you. Thor, we've a new acquaintance. This is Clake Deepfoam the Third. Or was it Seafoam?
Oh, Deeploam, sir.
Deeploam. Clake Deeploam the Third. This is Thorasius Fireheart.
Why are you glowing? Why are you so small? Are you like grown up? Or I guess grown old?
So to put this in perspective, Clay, you're 3 feet tall, correct?
3 foot on the dot.
So what, you
No,
probably
it's
come
not.
up to like the top of his thigh at the most, if not shorter than that?
With the hat, yeah.
Yeah, so that's quite the distance.
Would I be able to tell he's a little bit smaller than your average Goliath?
Give me a history check. And then, Valor, whenever you find it appropriate, you can enter into the scene. Whether it is your own bias filling the void ever so slightly, or the actual knowledge you wield, he does seem shorter than the legends would say.
I'll kind of like kneel down. Are you like a pixie or like a fairy? 'Cause you're glowing. Do you have wings? Can you fly?
Well, now hold on. Are you actually a Goliath? You are not.
Whoa. What do you mean, am I actually? Okay, hold on here. You haven't even identified yourself as a pixie or whatever first. What are you?
I am a gnome. We have crawled across it as Asmiliath. Well before your kind, thank you.
Okay, but why do you glow? What's up with the little dots?
I am a follower of the celestial heavens themselves.
The
They
what?
grant me their... I shall put it into Goliath terms for you. Small spots in sky at night. Very pretty, very nice. And he'll kind of reach up and pat, I guess, Thor's kneecap. So pretty, big man, yes. Very, very nice. Is he? He'll turn...
You can use complete sentences. I understand that there are gods and stuff, okay? You don't have to tell me that the stars are pretty. I get that. I had a very good view up on the mountains that I lived on as a Goliath.
Your friend mentioned you were beaten and thrown out.
Who said that?
Sorry, Thor. I've been drinking a bit, and I shouldn't have told them that. As a matter of fact, I told him that I shouldn't have told him that, and he should bring it up on his own. But maybe he's been drinking a bit too much himself, too. My apologies, Thor. And he wasn't thrown out. He fought valiantly in single combat against the leader of the clan. And lost, but it's beside the point.
He used 2 hammers. It was cheating.
Yes, he quite cheated. Thor doesn't cheat.
Do you know who Kuztar is? Have you seen this man?
Kuztar. I fear Clay is gone through the Serbat at some point. I don't know if he would...
Kustar is not a household name by any means.
Okay.
There's not a lot of Goliath newspapers that reach the Prude Empire.
Because they're all made out of stone.
If only you were a stone's throw away.
Oh my god.
Rolling Stone. Anyway.
Yes, well, you know, I can't fault you for being beaten down by another Goliath.
He had the hammer for an arm. He cut off his arm and put the hammer in there instead.
And you couldn't just pull it off.
No?
Well,
I don't... From what I remember, I couldn't have just pulled it off,
No,
right?
it was a mace, but I think it's fitting
Oh,
that Thor
yeah.
has transplanted a hammer into it.
It's just all about the hammer at this point. Yeah.
well, I shouldn't make light of your unfortunate defeat. We have all suffered our own problematic fights.
Now, what have you... Now, who even are you? What's the deep foam, leap, sea foam, sea... What does that mean? Who are you? Where do you come from? Why are you here? Why do you glow?
He'll dismiss it. Just get rid of the starry form. All
Alright, why do you not glow now?
I am of the Deep Loam families. We have served in the Chevlar's chosen since the entrance.
Are you a part of the Chevlar people?
Yeah, yes. The Order.
Oh. Okay, so what? Now why are you here?
And he'll launch into his tale
Yep.
again about, sitting up in the mountains following the stars. And so when I asked your companion, Lord Athelvane, he mentioned having seen them too. It's a bit more of a coincidence than I care to chalk up to mere happenstance.
So you're just looking up at the stars and you see them move and you're like, that's not normal. I should go find these guys and another guy who looks at the stars moving and we should team up.
Well, I didn't say anything about teaming up, but can't hurt to talk to you, lot. The more I talk to you, I'm wondering.
I'm just asking you questions. I need to know who you are. You're in my celebration. Well, it's not really a celebration. You're in our memorial honoring of a friend who just died and is very dear to all of us.
If it's simpler, I'm happy to take my leave of the evening to let your group mourn in peace. I too have lost one close to myself. Not too far past.
Oh, well, I
I would
didn't
not wish to intrude.
didn't mean to bring that up. My bad.
No, it was his time. Either way. No need to sour the moment. It is a pleasure to meet you, Thrasius.
It's nice to meet you too. And I'll just hold out my giant hand. Grab his whole arm. Just. Oh, I'm sorry. Here, I'll stick my finger out.
Much more appropriate.
Valor's back by this point.
Well, so you already met Lord Valorant, right?
Yes, Lord Valoran. I was acquainting myself here with your two companions.
That's splendid.
And you picking up strangers now, Valorant? Well, where did you find this guy?
He found me.
Hmm.
On that note, Mr. Deeploam, now that you have followed the stars here, what do you intend to do next?
I must trust in their wisdom. My family has fought evil beasts that were released back from the Great Entrance since it occurred. I can only assume this path will lead me down much of the same. Have you lot encountered anything odd? Anything particularly?
I think we might all left that.
Yeah. Mr. Deeploam, you have no idea. It's funny that you should bring up the Great Entrance.
I assure you, given what my grandpappy told me, there's nothing funny about it.
Which is why we are trying to stop a second one.
True.
Clay's hands will grip the table, like white knuckle it. I hope, sir, you are not in the mood for jesting.
I
Lighten up.
assure you that I am deadly serious.
Yes, and if you spend any amount of time with us, you'll know that he never jests. Ever. That I know of, or can discern. He's quite serious all the time, and especially now.
No, what do you mean, a second?
Well, it's the one that comes after the first and before the third coming.
Okay, well, he's in the mood for jest, but... Have you heard of Thoradin? By chance, not really a well-known guy as far as I'm aware.
The Dark Prince, yes.
Oh yeah, no, you do know. Okay, that guy, yeah. So, he wants to, reassemble his body parts and come back.
So, Clay,
he
this
has-
would be the first time you would ever hear about Tordan's body parts or any sort of physical manifestation of him.
No, that can't be right. He was destroyed.
He was
He was dispersed.
put into pieces.
And he has agents that are seeking to reassemble them.
And if you play nice, Clake, we'll show you a piece or two of him.
Will we?
Wait.
I'm sorry, I
please
shouldn't have said that.
Decker, what are you doing?
Are you... You have a piece of the Dark Prince himself.
We seek the pieces to prevent them from being put together.
It was a figure of speech. We're so capable that it's a foregone conclusion that we'll get the pieces. But
You would have to be madness incarnate to even attempt to touch such evil.
yes, who would want to grab a piece of that with their bare hand? Would be quite mad.
At any rate, we have seen them. They exist, and they are being assembled.
Anybody want some more to drink?
I
It's.
think you need to be
getting
capped,
to the
Decker.
point where I wasn't serious, and now we're being thrust back into seriousness.
I'm somewhat surprised that the Chosen are not aware of this already.
We're
Yeah,
gonna
you
be
don't know. You don't know about the body parts, the arms and the legs, and the torso. Maybe there's more. I don't know. There was one that I never saw. It was shaped a little weird. That's all
the
I'm
member
saying.
of Cordan.
Maybe.
Clay.
I-
The only thing that would jog your memory in this regard, you would never have heard about the pieces of Tordan, but if you, I guess like a vague connection you would be aware of, is the pieces of Shevlin, where, Shevlin the Third, the Chosen One, there were pieces of him missing after the Great Entrance, so that is the only thing that is even remotely connected to what they are talking about.
In that he was damaged so badly they had to lay his body to rest.
After
Missing
he had died and he had been laid to rest in Willenpello Castle, there was a disagreement amongst the Chevlar's Chosen, where a small sect of them broke off from the order and, in the process of doing so, stole some pieces of Shevlin on the way out.
So you don't know of Thoradin being split into little bits?
No. Oh, by the gods. They never explained it to anyone in my family. I know, missing body parts happen. That's not that uncommon. Even Shevlin himself has felt that bite of gruesome business, but Have you not told someone? If that is true, why is this the first I'm hearing of? This shakes our world to its very foundations.
Extraordinary claims tend to require extraordinary proof. We do have the support of the Kingdom of Giles, thankfully, although recently, and we will seek any and all others.
Yes, we have reason to believe that most of the unfortunate occurrences probably are somewhat caused by the Dark Prince, as you trying to converge back together. See, in my own personal opinion, I feel like he's creating distractions so that then his little henchmen can just run around the continent going unchecked and then go into little caves and get his pieces and then reassemble them, and everybody's going to be so distracted going at war with each other that then they're not going to realize that he's coming back.
Clay, give me a insight check real quick. Sorry to keep interrupting you with various rolls, sir.
No. I love rolling.
At the mention of unfortunate events, distractions, various ill deeds, you would remember a small bit of, I guess, news that you had heard the last time you were passing through the Pruitt Empire, returning back to HQ and then shipping out yet again, that the city in the northern tip of the Pruitt Empire named Calder's Point had suffered a pretty severe plague that was somewhat mysterious. The details were a little bit vague, and you also only heard about it, kind of in passing. But that would be something that would, itch the back of your mind as he's speaking.
Because, we had like a plague in like where Duke Braun was. There's a war now.
Plague, you say? What?
Yeah.
What were the
I think.
symptoms?
All I know is that like basically humans were dying and nobody else was really that affected. It's kind of weird.
Would that have been mentioned?
Well, most Pruitt cities are like 95 to 99% humans, due to their distinct beliefs. So if it only affected humans, that would be the only thing they cared to mention anyway, so.
You don't often see multiple plagues popping up. I know of another. I had heard it in passing, but in the Pruitt Empire, we had seen plague crop up as well. I must inform the Order. This is monumental. Please, if I can, whatever information you're willing to part with.
I have a question for you. Are you like, what is your specialty? What do you do? Do you like shoot things out of your hands, or like your belly button, or do you like have a little owl that flies at people, or do you have a flaming glaive?
Can you give me a wisdom saving throw?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh. It's close.
That was. So Clay pulls up his hand, throws it around. The discs on the string kind of fan out and bathe Thor in a bright shimmer. And after it fails,
What are you doing?
What was it
go,
supposed
wow.
to be?
polymorph.
No, like what was the form you were going to put him in?
A rock.
So, Thor, whether this is a familiar thought or not, you can let me know. But as the spell kind of descends upon you and its effects don't fully take place, there is a brief moment where your mind just goes, rock. And then you are able to kind of push it away.
What did you just do?
Well, I guess you're enough of a boulder head that probably wasn't going to be much of a change.
What was I thinking about?
Well, I was going to turn you into a rock, but didn't work.
Wait, what?
I can do a few things. You know, in the Chosen, you don't just be one thing. You never know who's going to die on a mission. So I can do a little bit of healing. I can throw out some damage. You know, preferably I like to utilize my abilities to track. But
Can you, because, you know, we had somebody who did this and then they couldn't do it. Can you identify, like, magic things?
well, let me think here. I can. Shit, I forgot. No. Okay. Well, I can get rid of magic on occasion.
Don't think that's gonna work in this case.
Well, I'll tell you what. If I see something that looks like it will explode on its touch due to magic, I'll let you know.
Sounds good.
So is the party going to disclose what they know at Clay's somewhat invitation, or is there going to be a hesitation? What's the plan there?
Valoran will. So Clay said he specifically intends to inform the Chosen of what has happened.
Of the attempted revival, which so far is all that I've revealed.
Valoran's impulse is to fill him in, but to stop short of admitting that they actually have a piece.
I concur.
So, Clay, as you are informed of the adventure thus far, you know, them kind of going almost in a chronological order of, you know, how it started and where they went and the various adventures they've been on, you find yourself kind of silently sitting there, retreating into your own mind a few times as, like, familiar names are brought up, and you realize, Dragoncliff Mines, I was only a town over. I went, well, yeah, no, did I see a Goliath back then? Maybe, I don't know. And then, you know, as they keep progressing, you find an uncanny pattern or connection where these prominent stories or moments or journeys that they went on are just on, like, the fringe of your general location in each passing moment.
If Valoran mentions Benny, he would definitely be like, "Oh, the weird man in all the armor. Yes, how's he doing?" And oh shit.
Yeah, I guess you would all eventually wind up at, you know, going into the swamps and meeting Ziggurat of the night, or skipping that part altogether to avoid revealing your hand.
We went into the swamp with a guide to fight a Hydra. And somebody didn't make it out.
Okay. So that would be everything up until that point, Clay, you would be informed about.
Why this could not have happened 60 years ago, I still maybe would have had a shot. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. I will admit to you something that very few outsiders are aware of. We, Chevlar's Chosen, are not what we used to be. We still fight the beasts, but our grand and glorious purpose is not what it once was. I hope they will be able to offer help, but we are diminished. Luckily, though, we did receive a couple new recruits relatively recently, from what I heard.
None of them were like sneaky looking elves that, maybe named like Calliope, something like that.
No, couple of humans.
Okay.
I mean,
That were
they all look
notably
the same to me.
Giles nationals would be something that you would have caught.
Yeah, a couple of humans from Giles, but that's not that unusual. Probably just some farmer sons looking to live glory through something they'd heard in a child's tale.
You know what they looked like?
About yay, hi.
I guess a worthwhile question that I don't think we ever truly established. How involved was the party in electing these spies that were hired?
I thought son of a bitch, Chandler? No. God, what was
Campbellton?
his- Campbellton. I thought
He was kind
actually
of
did
tasked to
all of
find
that
them.
work.
Yeah. So I guess the party wouldn't even know what they look like. Right?
I
That
guess.
might be fair, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Personally, I would like to have met them just so I know that if I see them, I'm like, hey, I know what you're doing here. And you're not shady for no reason, but I guess not, yeah. Alright, well. There were people running away from war to begin with, so I guess running to a different cause.
Yes, well, no offense to you two, but humans can be hasty at times.
Well, I think we are, after we settle in for the night, after everything dies down, we're probably going... Are we going back to Lucan? Decker, do you want to say hi to your mom that you missed?
Well, yes, and if I don't, it might be the last time you see me on this plane of existence.
Don't know what that means, but okay.
It means that she would be angry if I didn't, so yes,
Yeah.
I'll be seeing my mother. Or at least I will, but you're welcome to meet her. Clake, if I might be so bold, would you like to join us?
I thank you, yes. I was about to request that. I know we don't do what we once did, but if I have a chance to prevent a second grade entrance, I can't imagine anything more worthwhile for one of the Chevlar's Chosen. We've been cleaning up after the first one for over 300 years. It would be nice if I could leave a legacy to my children that doesn't involve more of that.
Makes sense to me. Well, we can direct you to our caravan whenever we're ready. Have you had enough, Decker? Are you good?
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, I was wondering if you were gonna drink more and just tell other people, personal information about us, or
Yes,
But you
Thor,
were-
I'm going to get quite rip drunk and I'll tell them everything I know about you, particularly about the times I've seen you naked and
what? How many times have you seen me naked?
none, but that is quite beside the point. I could say whatever I want. Keep antagonizing me.
Well, you keep revealing information about me.
God, everyone is too serious and or too touchy tonight.
I feel like we have good reason to be.
Yes, Thor. I'm very sorry, truly. That's that fucking cat in the bar.
There's a cat.
Can't you hear it?
I think Decker's going crazy. Oh, I see what's happening now. Never mind. Alright, well, I'm probably gonna go back. You're welcome to follow me as I masterfully play this on my walk. And I'll just start turning and strumming.
He'll pull some of his beard into his ears. Lead the way.
Why do you glow?
I'm not glowing right now.
Yeah, but that doesn't make a difference. Why?
Do you need a nightlight? I can pop it back on.
You're avoiding the question, and that's kind of weird. I don't like people that avoid questions. I met one of them. And they didn't last very long.
You may have resisted once, big man, but I can handle myself.
I can also rock your world. See what I did there?
Clay actually let out a big belly laugh from that. Don't worry. No. Pat Thor's calf. Or leg,
Ooh,
I guess. I
yeah.
forget how tall you are.
Probably be the cat.
Don't you worry. Don't you worry. I can channel the power of the stars themselves. Let's hope I don't have to use it, but if I do, I imagine you'll be thankful.
Well, hopefully it'll work next time. But anyways, caravan is this way. I'll introduce you to everybody, just so they don't attack you. Do you like dogs? That's kind of also bears.
I've spent many a night among hounds and spoken with a few bears.
Okay. Alright, then it's fine. Come on.
So Thor would introduce Clay to the growing collection of companions that the caravan hold.
Yep. The people, the mastiffs, Buffy if Buffy's there.
Buffy would
And
be gone at this point because you guys are like in a town, so, but later on, yeah.
And Belgrade.
Clay would probably spend more time speaking with the mastiffs and the horses than he would the people. All humans, right?
No. You have a gnome named Giggles, who's the spy master. You have
Oh,
Lavelle,
that's right.
the elf healer. You have Verkan Moon is a human, Borg's a human, Clara Blanc is your herbalist who is a half-elf, and yeah, Ironpot is a human. So you, a small variety.
Oh, yeah. Then he might have a little bit longer conversation with Giggles and Gnomish, but he was a warlock, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Probably taunt him a little bit for having to sell himself.
To not be a shown up, I would cast Speak with Animals. I just like let him talk to them for a second, and then I'd speak with animals so we can be on the same playing field.
Right. So, Decker and Valor, is there anything you guys are doing with the rest of the night/evening?
Valorant. Now that
Yeah,
they're
Decker.
gone, first of all, my apologies. I'm rather more drunk than I tend to be on a given night, but and I let slip things that I shouldn't have. Who is this fellow? Why have we brought him so quickly into our confidence?
Well, I wouldn't say he is in our confidence, but at this point, I'm not sure how much utility remains in keeping Tordan a secret, particularly from the Chosen. Even if they are diminished, they may have some insight.
Well, I will defer to your expertise in this matter. No, I guess it's not the right time. That's all.
Very
Yes.
well.
And then I would finish my ale and get up to go. Unless you want to get rip drunk with me, we could make complete asses of ourselves.
I think that I've had enough.
As always, one day I'd like to see you drunk.
The day will come, but
Have you ever been drunk?
of course.
Of course.
Simply-
I mean, you say of course, but my gods, man, I've been with you for months and I rarely see you smile, let alone do something out of sorts.
I'm concerned all the time. First it was being away from home, trying to contend with the people of the neighboring kingdoms. And then it was trouble with my house, and now Tordan.
We go from the house to the world. We skip so much in between. I guess it is troubling times, but if you can't drink in times like these, geez. Well, I did have a question, and I guess now is as good of time as any. Your relationship with Arovica. How long has that been a thing? How long have you been sure that she existed?
Well, that's a more complicated question than it sounds. I I told Thor some time ago that I suppose I've been sure that she existed for as long as we were sure that Tordan did. As for having a relationship, well, I don't want to overstate things. I have been reaching out to her.
I guess what I mean is that most people can go their entire lives, and the lives of their fathers and grandfathers, without any sort of tangible relationship with a deity. And yet, in the space of a few short months, you and I both have been quite assured of their existence. And I just don't know how this honestly is making me feel.
There are
Other than
those who
a renewed interest in drink.
There are those who would find their lifetime's fulfillment in this knowledge.
Quite. And for us, it's just a bookend on another day.
Well, we're on a collision course with a deity, and we pose, I hope, a credible threat to his plans. I suppose some kind of interest in us is to be expected.
Well, I guess there really wasn't much of a question there.
I've been trying to contact Erovica since last summer. First for my own good. And now I should think for the good of all Asmiliath. She has responded in her way, but couldn't say whether she is with us. Not yet. She seems amused.
Yes. You know, all of my life I've been rich, and I find myself reflecting on all the times I've been amused by those below me. Quite without malice, I assure you, but lately, as the pawn of things much greater than us, I'm not quite sure it's such a comfortable fit for me anymore. Anyway, there's quite a lot of fuel for drinks. I'll try to lay off a bit. Don't want to develop a drinking problem.
I don't blame you. Not tonight, least of all. I just
be careful with this clackety, clake, whatever. Anyone can say they are who they are. I'd like to see a bit more proof than some glowing gnome.
My concern is that he is exactly who he says he is.
Explain.
Let's just say that despite being late to the party, I doubt that the Chosen would defer to our leadership in the matter of Tordan.
And they should join us on the road and do something more than talk.
Well, perhaps after a report from Clay, they'll be inspired to do so.
Well, then maybe we should make a good impression on the little fellow. All right, well, I'm sorry I'm beginning to be as serious as you are. That's a joke, Valoran.
These are serious times.
So, one final point of... It appears the alliance between Lemus and Folk is dissolved.
I heard.
I hope that doesn't mean anything to our friendship.
Actually, I'm glad that you bring it up. I think that, well, if we were going to reinstate it, how would you suggest we go about it?
Probably
Does your
start
father have any sway in this matter?
quite. It's very powerful, very influential, and unless I miss my mark, he may have been part of the dissolution.
Well, perhaps he can be part of the reinstating.
Well, we'll have our shot at convincing him very soon, I'd think.
I intend to try, and perhaps our friendship can help convince him.
I believe it might. I think he has a soft spot for me. I don't know. Well, let's get on our way. This ale shit anyway. I've got some rather good stuff at home.
I'll look forward to a tasting.
It'll do more than taste if we really are friends.
We do have to watch our backs, you know.
Not in my home.
From your mouth to Arovica's ear.
Yes, Arovica will protect us. Good night, Valoran.
Good night, Caspian.
So one
Okay.
last... Yep.
See, there you go again. Decker.
Force of habit.
I know. You are a creature of it. That's why I like you. Athelvane.
So the last small thing to settle as everyone finds their way into their sleeping quarters or more drinks, depending on who you ask. Clay and Thor, when you were talking to Giggles during the evening, he was in the middle of receiving a bit more news. Nothing super world-shattering, but I guess you would have been privy to it in that conversation. Whether he explains it to Clay or Thor, whoever actually, gets it is somewhat arbitrary. But you would learn that a upstart small slave rebellion led by a orc named Black Eye has started in Folk, and the now, I guess, leader of the insurrection is hiding within the heartland of Folk after basically slaughtering a small house full of people.
Does that name mean anything to me?
No, the nickname or the title would not mean anything to you
Yeah.
now.
And where in, like, did he say a location, like, in relevance to, like, where we've been?
So without having to like delve into, actually, I'll go ahead and do this real quick. Like precise locations and names.
Yeah.
I would say somewhere up here in like the northern valley of Folk is where the actual event took place, and he is now rumored to be hiding somewhere amongst the center of Folk, being searched for.
Okay.
An Orc Slave Rebellion, you say?
Yes, I do say. So,
Does this mean something to you?
Well, I've never been a fan of the whole slavery idea myself. So, bully for them, I suppose.
I mean, I'm not a fan of it either, but depends on who they killed. Don't just go around killing women and children who aren't responsible for what's happening.
Does Prude practice slavery?
they don't practice slavery, but they certainly don't hold other races in high regard. They take a lot of pride in being the manpower, the leadership, like every aspect of their civilization is governed by the majority of humans. And so to even have slave labor that's a different race would not sit well with them.
Well, I can't disagree with you there. The common people never see the benefits of such a system. Any system, really. Traveled through the kingdoms and everyone suffers.
I do need to let Valoran know, because this, homeland and it might be important to him. It's also a little important to me. I'd wait for Valoran to return.
Yeah, whenever he joins up with the caravan, I guess you would fill him in.
Sure. Do you know anything about these people, this guy who led this rebellion?
What house did you find out? What house?
Giggles?
Valorant, give me a history check real quick. Okay. So the Giggles doesn't have the precise house name for you, but the sigil was described to him as a songbird with an arrow struck through it, which you would know pretty quickly by being familiar with the relatively close by houses near your home, that it is called the Yellow Bird, and it's not precisely a house of more of a congregation of middling nobility that's kind of formed a political power by kind of combining their, I guess, influence together. So while Yellowbird is the sigil they fly and kind of the loyalty that they have, there are various other smaller houses beneath that. So you are just aware that whatever house was struck was underneath the Yellowbird banner.
And they're sort of like a smaller
Yeah.
coalition.
Yeah. Basically a bunch of small fries got together so they could compete with the bigger guys.
And the name of the leader was Black
Eye.
Black Eye, the full orc?
Yeah, he is a full orc. If the reports are to be believed.
How impressive is it that Black Eye took down a house of the Yellow Bird?
The general vibe I imagine Valor might have about such a thing. Slave insurrections in Folk are not a rare occurrence. whether the severity of them are notable is kind of the, I guess, questionable thing. So the fact that he actually got away with murdering some people of prominence and then actually hiding and getting away with it is more noteworthy than the fact that he rebelled at all. So that's probably the general understanding that you have, is that it's not super significant that it happened, but it's significant that he wasn't immediately caught and executed.
And I assume the name doesn't mean anything to me.
No, I mean, the leaders
Black
that crop
Eye.
up for these certain things, a dime a dozen.
All right.
And Giggles, was there any mention of like a person matching the description of Novin in any of the reports that we've had?
Oh, you think I'll tell you about that? You think if no one popped up with anybody, I'd make sure I'd pass that along, huh? Yeah.
Okay, all right, Giggles. I'm just making sure.
You think I'm not doing my job? I take my job very seriously.
Giggles, you're doing a great job.
I know I'm doing a great job.
I know.
You think I just sit on my ass all day?
What?
I'm hearing bickering from one person there. If I heard yellow-eyed man with yellow eye patch, you think I wouldn't tell you that, huh?
I'm just making sure that wasn't a detail that may have been skipped. Because I know you get a lot of messages.
Job. Right.
Yep, okay. Wow, he is cranky today. Anyways, sidebar, Valorant. I would kind of make sure that nobody's around. So, two things. One, is this uprising a good or bad thing? Because I would imagine it's semi-good. But also, like, what if you inspired that to happen?
In the first place, I don't agree with that practice of my country.
Well, yeah, neither do I.
And neither did my father, which he would get the credit in that instance. However, I should think that there are those among that population that are always inspired to freedom. They don't need the excuse of anything happening in Capelmont.
Do you think Melvin was involved for some reason? Because I imagine you said that it's weird that he got away.
I see Novin behind every tree trunk lately. There's no way to know for certain, but I do want to look into it.
Well, luckily it's semi on our path north.
It's exactly on our path.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's true. I don't really know. I don't have a map in front of me. But
What I mean to say, Thor, is that if I were leading a slave rebellion, the one county in all of Folk that has abolished slavery is a logical refuge.
So we're going home.
We're going home.
Yeah. Okay, now second thing. Didn't we free Duke Braun's mom from, like, the enslavement of a demon or whatever? And wasn't that, like, the Chevlar's thing? Didn't they send for them? Or who is that, somebody else?
I believe that was someone else that they sent for.
Okay. Because I didn't want to tell him about it unless it was somebody else. Because I feel like impersonating them may put a bad reputation on us.
To correct it. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I think you're about to say the same thing I was.
Yeah, you're thinking of Kavander, and they were a part of a loose organization called Soul Guides, who healed things such as the Terrafox. So that was the group that you were impersonating.
Gotcha. Okay. I thought they were a part of that. Never mind.
No, I don't
Alright,
believe
cool.
that I don't believe they're associated, but you're right to be cautious. And anyway, Lady Alaris is doing well. And at this point, you can assume to have been filled in on all the other Giggles intel.
What are we gonna do about Callie, man? I feel like she's gonna terrorize JD's town, and I feel really bad for not going and killing her.
She's undoubtedly more interested in us than Corel. We'll do the same thing with her as we did with Hypatia if it comes to that.
Oh no, I fully intend to kill her. If she's as annoying as she was the first time, I don't need her to say anything. We can just get it over with. Because at the end of the day, still works for Novan.
Do you think that this Callie works for Novan like Hypatia?
Oh, 100%. They're like the same people. Her and her sister are like literally the same person. And she always didn't like me, so it was just like whatever I would do, she would do the opposite. So I'm fighting against Novan, she's fighting with Novan. And also, if she has the messaging stone, then that means that something went wrong to where Croak doesn't have it, which can't be good.
We don't have anywhere near all the answers, but I cannot understand the appeal of following Novan and Tordan. Well,
I guess it's always the argument of no matter which side of the coin you're on, you always think you're the right side.
I don't think that's how that goes, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah. That's the best way I could explain it. But anyways, does Giggles know anybody in has he seen any? He's seen people in Kraylin before. Corel? I hate this name system.
Corel is the small town, Kraylin is the city.
Corel. That's what I meant to say.
He would not know anyone in Corel.
Okay.
But he does have the benefit of knowing the majority of, like, important house wizards or house arcane masters throughout the land that he's met through his travels that he can message.
Yeah, but he wouldn't, like, know Croak.
Nah.
Yeah.
I've asked that some of the hand look in on Corel on their way to their next objective.
I think that's going to be I think that's going to be important because Croak's just locked away in a dungeon somewhere. That's probably not good.
Well, one thing at a time.
Also, what do we think about the oh hey Decker. What do we think about the South? I feel like it's a good thing that there's no activity, but also I feel like there might be a power struggle down there. We did just kill two pretty important people down there, I feel like.
That's what I imagine as well. There is a power vacuum, and the beast folk are at each other's throats to determine who will come out on top.
Also, there aren't any pieces that we know of down there anymore, right?
Not that we know of.
I guess it would make sense if Nilvan doesn't have any interest in there at the moment.
I will never assume to know his mind. But for the time being, there is more tumult elsewhere in the land.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking if we can get folk on our side by either now with the new slave rebellion thing, figuring that out, or if I can, you know, beat the crap out of Kustar and take the hammer back, and I can stop them from raiding folk, could be maybe beneficial. Although I don't know how much your queen cares about, or I guess our queen cares about that stuff.
I intend to find out. Before we leave folk again, I intend to seek an audience with Her Majesty.
And we need Giggles to meet the wizard. The queen's wizard, that is. Important. So that we can have messages everywhere. All about making giant spite. Novin pops up, trap him, and eat him slowly. Suck the blood out of him. Okay, anyways. I'm gonna go to bed.
Yes. So am I.
I think Belgraves wants more beats, by the way. We had a conversation earlier. He's been lacking in the beat department. He's also been missing you a lot. Maybe you should spend some time with your horse.
I intend to, and I will make sure to find some beats when we get to Uken.
Alright, well, good night, Valrin. And good night, Decker.
Good night, Thor.
Good night, Thor.
And as our heroes find their way to slumber, we will take our 10-minute break. Having their somewhat informative and somewhat disjointed evening following the banquet dedicated to Jarek, the Golden Hearts leave Black Hollow the following morning, some of them nursing some potential hangovers from their celebration. It's only about a day-and-a-half journey to Uken, so you would spend almost a full day in the company of the caravan, perhaps having some conversations that have been missed as you were traversing the swamp with, leaving your, I guess, growing group on the wayside. Decker, actually, let me go ahead, roll me a general intelligence check real quick.
Okay.
So after your brief conversation with Lavelle, discussing your renewed, or I guess your blossoming interest in healing and the general aspects surrounding that, she's made a somewhat noticeable effort to set aside some time to have drifting conversations with you as you travel, or especially when she's checking in on your arm, to divulge some more information, to explain what she's doing more instead of just, going through the motions. And I'm going to let you get a inspiration die from the conversations, the discussion, the effort put into shifting Decker on his new path.
Alrighty.
But after the day of travel and another nights of rest to prepare yourself for the, what's the word I'm looking for, upcoming reunion with your family, you arise the next morning and descend the hill down towards the small, I guess, river or stream valley where you have to cross the bridge over to your homeland of Uken. Approaching the gates, you would have a very similar welcoming to your first time here in Ukin, where, whoever was taking the lead would introduce the party. Decker would be somewhat easily recognized, and then you'd be allowed within the first layer of the pyramid-style structure that the city follows. Only making it about 5 or 10 minutes into the city proper, the general hubbub of a morning populace kind of growing around you, Decker, you would quickly recognize a young messenger boy that you had dealt with about a month or so ago, striding up to you with a fair bit more confidence than he had the first time you had met. He steps up, still dressed in the familiar garb of your family, that gray and silver with the sigil prominently displayed on his chest. He has one arm kind of held at his chest that's also like, I don't know, gesturing in a hopefully regal way down towards you as you approach. Master Caspian, welcome home. I have a message from your father and mother, if you are also inclined to hear it.
Report.
They heard about your departure at Black Hollow. A generous banquet has been prepared for you and your companions. They want to make sure that everybody is appropriately dressed for the occasion. If your companions do not own their own appropriate garments, then they can be procured for them.
I would greatly appreciate that, and yes, where should we go to secure these?
There is a tailor shop on the 3rd level called the Silver String and the Puppet. They have a open bill there if any clothing needs to be supplied. Is there any message that I shall return to your mother and your father?
Tell them that it has been too long, and I eagerly await seeing them at our home, and I will be there just as soon as circumstances permit.
Your mother did want me to mention to you, and it is rather prominent that I do so, that if your arrival is after noon, she would be displeased.
I will be there before noon.
Master Caspian, it is an honor as always.
And I might say you've quite improved since the last time.
I have taken your suggestions to heart, and hoping that my newfound prowess helps me in life.
It may. Good day.
He kind of like does the whole deep bow, stepping backwards before turning around and departing, leaving you all at the first level of Ukin.
What time is it?
It's probably about 7 or 8 in the morning. You're kind of just in the beginning of the day.
Gentlemen, our family's tailor shop has been made available to us, and if it wouldn't be too much of an imposition, would you all mind traveling there with me so that we can have suitable clothing for a formal dinner?
I like your family style. I already have something suitable, although it's been some time since I last had occasion to wear it. Looking forward to this.
Absolutely. Clake, you've been traveling. Do you have formal clothing on you, or should you like to have a set made for you?
At best, maybe my uniform is serviceable, but
For this occasion, it would not be appropriate. So, yes. And Thrasis, please, this is my mother. Do me a favor, just let them dress you.
I was going to honor your traditions. It's not like I just want to always be naked all the time unless if somebody is uncomfortable, okay?
Look, if I could be naked all the time, I would. I'm very absolutely jealous of your traditions. But yes, thank you. My mother, you know how mothers are. Well, shall we?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's-
Lead on.
It's not too hard to get there, and then I'm assuming I'd know exactly where it's at.
Yeah. Are you gonna try and settle the caravan somewhere lower, drag them around with you? What's the plan with kind of finding a place for them?
Over at Valorant on that one.
I think whatever sort of city center, town square, near a tavern where the people who have not been invited to the Caspian home can find a bed and some food.
Poor caravan hands A through D. They were so excited. But, alright. So, leaving the larger train of the caravan behind and forming the smaller core group of the Golden Hearts plus Clay, you begin moving up the layers of Ukin, and previously where you only kind of got a passing glimpse at the lower level as you were trudging off to the western part of Liamis, you now get the full, deep, resonating effect of just how impregnable this city truly is. Each layer of walls is the same 20-foot tall, 6-foot wide stone brick wall, basically. It's like passing by a mountainside as you kind of weave back and forth to the various gates that let you go higher and higher. As you do gain a more elevated position, you are able to kind of look back onto the Liamis countryside and the Giles countryside on the other side of the river, and it's a rather impressive and expansive view, even about only halfway up the city's total height. But eventually you would find yourself to the tailor shop that had been, I guess, described to you, or that Decker would be familiar with. Going inside, the workers would be completely at your, not at your mercy, but at your beck and call to adjust your clothing, to tailor it, to bring new cloth out, to, craft whole new garments depending on whatever the party wanted to find themselves in.
And on my cloak, I'd like to have them design and sew a patch that is just an insignia of the Golden Hearts.
Okay. Is anyone doing any significant changes to their attire?
I'm getting everything brand new. I'm getting new colors. Whatever. I don't know Decker's house colors.
Gray and silver.
Right, so
All right, then I'm getting gray and silver. I'll have to think of the specifics, but essentially just a formal dress attire with a lot of buttons that would be very confusing for my giant hand.
Okay.
And yeah, just very, very clean, like just casual but fancy.
A nice pair of, jackets and pants that match and have the appropriate, I guess, embroidery on them potentially, the small designs and cuffs and buttons and, that general aesthetic.
Yep.
Okay.
Are there hats here?
You could have a hat, yes.
Like a silver fedora-esque hat with a feather poking out.
I was thinking exactly that.
Odds or evens, Thor?
Odds?
There is a stained silver leather fedora style hat, but I'm missing the feather.
Okay. I'll accept it.
Okay.
Can they add the feather, or is that too much for them?
Depends on the feather.
And just
Can
like
can I send Aurora out to go retrieve a feather from a nest?
Sure, give me perception. And I guess an advantage with Aurora.
You're not gonna give him one of hers?
She's Fae. I don't know if they would.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
Valor, and what is yeah.
Um, he's got his own finery with his house colors, and being from folk, the fashion is obviously more current, more up to date than swamp people would have. But
You remember what I said about us being friends?
Mm-hmm.
It's a fine
that
line.
it would broaden your horizons. But he does break it out just to make sure that if it needs any mending or alteration, that he can get it done here before they make their appearance.
I guess it would be fitting that at some point along the way between the deep and now, the party would have had some sort of stop at a bathhouse or a stream or a creek to wash away the pale worm sludge that they had collected.
Oh,
One would hope.
Yeah, one would
right.
hope.
We're not getting prestidigitated anymore, are we?
Yeah. So we can certainly say that that has occurred at some point, so you're not putting your fineries over a slimy exterior. So, Decker, looking around the small nests that only appear in, an urban city, right? You're looking at the rooftops and the crooks of chimneys and things of that nature. You're only able to find, like, small sparrow landing pads with, like, pretty lackluster, somewhat twisted and mangled feathers. So you are able to procure a feather, but nothing that is showboaty.
I'd still bring it back.
Okay.
Thor, Aurora brought you a adornment for your hat if you'd like it.
Oh my gosh, this is exactly what I was looking for, and I'll take the feather and the hat to the person. Can you put these together?
He just, like, gently grabs the hat and the feather, and then just tucks it in the band surrounding the lower part of the hat, and then hands it back to you.
This is fantastic. And I will don my fedora.
All right. And then, Clake, are you dolling up at all?
He would probably present the order's uniform and just, if you can snap something together like this, I would not show disrespect to them by donning finery.
Okay.
So get something a little more military cut.
Okay. I will, I'll put forth that it is now new lore that the Chosen have a uniform. The only thing that they're usually recognized by is a eye sigil that they have somewhere within their equipment, whether it be a belt buckle or the, like, ornament of a sash. So that would be somewhere on your person to identify you as part of the Chosen. But perhaps it was a, like, deep blown family uniform or suit or thing of that nature.
I was thinking it might have been his grandfather's when the Chosen were still
in fighting shape. Alright. That'll work. So, as the party is made presentable and the morning sun begins to inch up towards about 10 or 11, say, you are all finally prepared for the steep climb.
So, gentlemen, I must hurry to meet my mother before noon. I really don't want to see what she'd do if I missed any sort of meeting with her a second time. When is the dinner tonight?
So, when the Caspians have a dinner, it's a whole afternoon affair. You show up at noon, there's drinks and snacks and conversation, there's an hour or so of mingling, then you sit down and have an early supper, going through that, and eventually in the evening, as company dissolves, that's like the end of the dinner. So that's the general expectation you have.
Okay, so she would expect everybody to be there at noon.
Yeah.
So, Thor, I would submit that tomorrow would be a better day to find the magic shops you were looking for.
No, it's okay. This is very important. I would not waste the opportunity that you have to see your mother.
No, but certainly don't waste the opportunity to see our magic shops. They quite impressive for swamp people.
Well, I look forward to seeing what's there. But I again, trust me, Decker. This is more important.
Thank you, Thor. Well, shall we?
Away.
So as the Golden Hearts begin to ascend higher and higher in the city, you eventually reach what most people refer to as the government quarters at the government level. It's where not only the more regional council of Ukin is held, but the family that is, connected to the senator is also, where their house is and where they function and where the general kind of public buildings for the city are found. So finally breaking your way into this level and enjoying some rather prominent structures. There's, not only are there large open style buildings for large crowds to gather and discussions to be had, but these almost lengthy, endless arching gardens and landscaping and mazes and, just general pleasant architecture kind of stretches across this sizable expanse. Decker, you'd be very, familiar or easily recognize the manor that your family hold, your family crest draping on banners on either side of the large front door. You would recognize the head servant that you are somewhat familiar with. He's relatively new to the position. His mother was the previous head servant. He's now kind of taken up the lead. His name is Toasting, by the way, Tosting. But he would be standing there kind of ready to receive the group. He's standing very tall and straight and, I guess, prepared. But besides that, that would be the general presentation you are met with.
Did his mother die or retire?
She died of old age.
You see that statue over there? The one of the owl?
Yeah.
It's hollow. There's a secret entrance to it. I won many games of hide and seek there. To this day, I don't think that Danica knows that that's where I hid most of the time.
I probably couldn't fit in there, but
No.
maybe he could.
Yeah, he certainly would. It might be a big tight fit for me now, but as a child, it's no problem at all. Well, that's our head servant, and I'm sure he will direct us where we need to go.
So as the group approaches and you're met by Toasting, who's very polite and not soft-spoken, but very understated in a respectful way, he would, welcome you home and, kind of greet each person of the party individually, and then you'd be brought inside the interior of the manor. You all understand that Decker comes from wealth. He's talked about it. It's, a fact that's been kicked around. Being brought into the first layer, and I do mean layer, of this manor, kind of really begins to showcase the wealth that Decker comes from. There's elegant statues and tapestries and jewelry displayed on busts and various, tomes laid out that look absolutely ancient. It's everything about the entrance of this manor is basically used to express not only the influence and the power and the prestige of the family, but also how well they're doing financially. There is also many plaques and awards decorating the hallways that are the best brew of the Western province and various other awards that they had been given from not even royalty, but other businesses and competitors about their rather long line of flavors and trials and fairs and whatnot they competed in. But as you are brought through this large showcase of a room, you are eventually brought into a open style interior garden. The roof is all kind of sloped inwards. There's fountains and decorations kind of dotted around, and a fair bit of greenery, though it's mostly kind of white stone, makes up the general area that you are in. There's a small table in the center, and there's tea and coffee and wine all like kind of laid out with cups surrounding each pitcher. And you are all sat there before, the servant very politely bows and, I will go and get your mother and your father and make yourself at home, Master Caspian.
Thank you, Toasting. I feel very much at home. Please, help yourselves. It's quite good to have familiar food for a change. I dig right in.
Everyone give me a perception check. Nice. So Clay, as you are the newest to the group, and you are smacked in the face with this showcase, because you've only known Decker for about 2 or 3 days at this point, you're still kind of like looking around, just taking in the scene that you've been placed in, kind of ignoring the platter set in front of you entirely. And as you look up at the edge of one of the roofs that leads into this open space, you see a young woman kind of sat on the edge of the tiles, kind of swinging her feet over the lip, just kind of watching you all. And as you make eye contact with her, she just very gently like lifts a finger, does a little, and then remains in place.
He would definitely reach up to tip his hat in a nonchalant way and then turn towards the food.
So the rest of the party, you'd be left there for a few minutes before the host would arrive. Is there anything that would take place during that time?
I would be just telling them about my family and mostly about, I would just be telling them about the different members of my family.
So after the few minutes tick by, down one of the hallways that empties out into this courtyard area, for lack of a better term, the party would recognize the rather tall, slim, somewhat gaunt, but very serious figure of Caspian's father, or Eldred Caspian would be the proper title, or Alderman Caspian as he likes to be called. And then beside him is an equally tall, slender, graceful, middle-aged woman that demands about the same respect as the man beside her. And at this point, Decker would, I assume, make it rather common knowledge that her name is Oletha? Oletha? How do you want to pronounce that, sir?
Olita.
Olita, okay. The two stride very prominently, very gracefully, I'm running out of adjectives, down the hallway, kind of step to the edge of the courtyard, and the woman would make a discernible effort to move from one companion to the next, to the next, to the next, looking you all up and down like a singular little nod, and then steps out of the courtyard. She reaches up her hands, kind of clasps them very gently. Well, it is so great to have my son back home with all of his dear and loving companions. My son, come here. You've been trying to run from me for so long, kind of holding her arms out for you.
I'd give her a big hug and spin her around, quite out of decorum.
As she kind of spins back around and re-secures the embrace, she kind of tilts her head up just enough to whisper in your ear. She's like, "Thank God you dressed them, or we would have had problems."
And they bathed, Mother.
Oh, how extravagant. And then kind of steps down away from you.
And then I would, at that point, I would step back and bow and give her a kiss on her hand and reestablish that line of decorum there.
So after greeting back with her son, she would move to each of you individually, first over to Valor and kind of holding her hand out to you. "Lord Athelvey and I have heard much of you. You are very welcome in our home." It seems that the cat. There we go.
My lady, it is a delight to be in your company and in these wonderful surroundings, especially after the ordeal that we have had.
I can only imagine that traversing the swamp was a rather arduous trial, and I'm very glad that you are in a better scene.
You have no idea.
And I sure hope to never have any sort of idea.
And Valoran will kiss her hand.
She would then move over to Thor, offer her hand again, kind of bowing her head. You must be the mighty warrior Thor, Goliath, which is rather impressive. Welcome
Yes,
to my
hello, Milady Caspian, and I will, bow myself down while kissing her hand with my hat. It is very nice to meet you. I have heard a lot of intimidating things about you. So I am excited to watch from afar. Please don't hurt me.
She kind of raises an eyebrow and glances over at Decker, just kind of giving a quick and then respectfully kind of bow to Thor, move her hand over to Clay. And you, my tiny companion, I don't think I have your name yet, sir. Is Seth frozen?
He's frozen.
He's frozen
He
in
is
fear.
frozen.
This hasn't happened in Godwin's
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
Keep
he's
your
really-
secrets then. As they both sit down, take their place around the table with you. The mother taking, again, a more relaxed stance at this point, kind of preparing herself to listen as the father, I guess, takes charge of the conversation. He would all very briefly kind of look you all over and nod his head in reminder of, it was very nice seeing you again. It's very, not such a long time. He would then look you all over one last time, get a little bit of a peculiar look on his face, and then look at Decker. What happened to, the Mayor, Dissel?
He died, Father. And more precisely, he sacrificed himself so that we could achieve our objective. In the end, he died quite heroically.
Well, that certainly was not the answer I was prepared for. That's such a shame. He showed a lot of spunk.
Promise.
Yeah, in his endeavors. I'm very sorry. That must be a rather significant loss for you all.
It was, and perhaps we can talk more later.
Of course.
I pull my glove off. I said, I also did not come out unscathed from that encounter.
As your parents are shown the damage inflicted onto their son, you would see your father's demeanor go a bit more stoic as his lips kind of press into a thin line, and your mother immediately kind of raises her hands up to her face in this kind of half gasp, and both of them almost immediately kind of leave their seats and step forward, your father being the first one to kind of demand an answer. Decker, what have you done? What were they not watching out for you? What happened?
I did my best to watch out for them. It didn't work out as planned.
Your mother at this point would kind of scoop your hand up in her own, kind of very gently, unsure if there's pain involved with the discoloration, kind of start turning the hand in her own. We'll let you see the healers in Ukin. I mean, certainly there's someone that can repair the damage.
I'm certain there is, Mother, but I felt it was more advantageous to my health to not make you wait. But certainly, I'll seek out a healer and see what they can do. Our company healer, she did an admirable job. It was quite more damage than you see now. But don't worry, Mother, it feels fine, and with a glove on, it functions perfectly normally.
I'm glad your humor is still intact, but I'd rather my son come back to me whole.
Well, this is all the sun you've got left now. Speaking of which, how are your other sons and daughter?
She would open her mouth to answer, and then you would almost see your father like lay a hand like gently on her back, and she's seems to hold her tongue on whatever she was about to say before your father picks up for her. We have requested that Danica does not interrupt our dinner this evening. She is a bit disruptive as of late.
Oh, so she's normal then?
Yes, she is holding up her usual demeanor.
I told you should give her allowance, Father.
Decker, once you have many, many children that all want different things and all have very different minds, perhaps you'll understand that you don't always have the answer for everything.
Oh, I know I don't. Well,
Then you see him kind of turn his head, and he speaks almost in a... He speaks in a way where he knows that if someone's listening, they would be able to hear. But yes, your brothers are behaving just fine and doing very well. As I hope you are, Decker.
I'm doing better and behaving perfectly, Father.
But
But,
as much as it's exciting to have you return home, son, I imagine that your compatriots have lives to indulge us with in stories and tales and requests.
absolutely. The least of which, if you don't mind, the least of which being, Father, I hate to jump right to business, but what is this story I'm hearing of Leonis and Folk dissolving their relationship? Because I can assure you that if Lord Athelvane is any indication of the general populace of Folk, we would be sorely missing their friendship. And it's no small, it's not an understatement to say that without Lord Athelvane, you would not be having this conversation with me.
You see him kind of nodding, some of his muted jovialness kind of disappearing as business is brought up, and he would nod to you and then nod over to Valor. And if my brief research into Lord Athelvane is to be accurate, I would understand that he doesn't represent the normal noble from Folk.
Valoran doesn't comment yet. He just gives a small smile and actually nods his head once.
He would then kind of turn back to you, Decker, and give you a look that you've seen before, that you almost have a silent conversation with him where he very quickly departs the message of, we need to have this conversation in private, but he would glance down, kind of nod his head at you. Perhaps we can talk business over stronger drinks with just Lord Athelvane and yourself and I.
My apologies, Father. I spoke out of turn and I've quite ruined the atmosphere. Mother, my apologies.
She kind of, now that they've more or less accepted the injury that they have been shown, they step back a little bit, return to their seat. She looks over at your father and kind of understandingly nods. If you gentlemen want to go have some business conversation on the side, I'm certain that the small companion that has not given me his name yet, and Thrasius, can entertain me with tales.
Mother, I'll be back for dessert.
Oh, you'll be back for dinner.
See, I told you she's scary.
So your father would stand up, kind of nod his head at Valor, nod his head at you, and then begin kind of leading the direction down a hallway as your mother settles in to discuss with Clay and Thor.
I apologize for Clay. He was a little out of it with all the very fancy stuff you guys have. Very impressive. I don't know if he's seen much light.
She reach her hand out to you again, Clay, kind of resting it in yours. It is a pleasure to meet you. I did not get your name earlier. You seemed a bit silent.
Your home is magnificent, madam. And if he wasn't already standing, he'll give the quick click of his heels together, a smart stature, and give her light kiss. And most impressive. I am Clake Diplom III of the Chevlar's Chosen, madam. A pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Kind of nod her head slowly down at you. I hope that you take no offense to me calling you a little companion. I have deep respect for gnomes, and I find them rather fascinating. And if that term is offensive, just do let me know.
My people have long lifespans. We hear many things. I assure you there is much joy to be had in life, to dwell upon that which, in the end, is meaningless.
I think you have the showings of a great politician. You say very little, but speak much.
My father would be thrilled to hear such praise from you.
But I've heard that you've been traveling with my son, and though I'm very confident that he would never ever lie to me, I think it would be rather entertaining to hear your perspective of your journey so far.
Madam, I must admit I have only recently come to acquaint myself with the Golden Heart company here. Master Thrasius, would you care to regale the young lady with tales of her son?
Where would you like me to start, my lady?
So she would kind of sit back in her chair, kind of swirling a cup of tea that she's working on, and almost in like a I don't know, a flourishy kind of way, she's like, whatever the interesting plot picks up. And then we can, however you want to hand wave over that, like wherever you start talking about Decker or your adventure before Decker, it's kind of up to you.
Yeah, I guess I would start with how we met, because I feel like that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't realize that we were kind of close, small world, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then see down we had our initiation where we took him on a mission, and it was baby's first mission, and then he did pretty well, and he was around for the whole Duke thing, and how sad that was, and just kind of lead her through our adventures with a child spin on everything.
Okay. So as that information is being divulged, we'll hop on over to Decker and Valor, and as you two are led into Decker, as you would know it to be your father's study, which is a rather roomy and very book-filled environment. There's two large windows kind of on the back wall that empty out into the center of the government quarters, so he can see into all of the public buildings and the government buildings and the various gathering points beneath the manor. But he would quickly walk over to behind his desk. There's a small cart set up as a makeshift bar. He would begin kind of pouring 3 glasses and then setting 2 of them on the other side of the desk before taking his seat behind the rather imposing piece of furniture that he works upon, and then leans back in his chair, kind of swirling the glass in his hand. There is much to discuss with Liamis and Folk, and as any sort of political relationship, it is rather intricate. So please, gentlemen, do sit, and we shall indulge ourselves.
Valoran, after you.
Valoran, quite at home in under the circumstances, and just makes himself comfortable right away.
Where to begin, Father?
Well, I think that's no surprise that after the tragic and unexpected passing of Duke Braun, that a lot of the effort he had put into securing alliances was stripped away rather quickly. With Giles at war with Roy Mazev and the Pruitt Empire trying to weasel its way into any avenue it can south, it puts Liamus and Folk and some of the more independent thinkers of our southern friends in a questionable place. Folk seems to be of a certain mindset that the Empire would be the favorable option between southern Liamus and northern Liamus, or southern Asmiliath and northern Asmiliath. I don't think that I have to spell out why that would be problematic for our country, son.
Indeed not.
After our brief introduction, Lord Ethelvain, I hope you don't take any offense to this, but I had some men look into your situation and what kind of lord you may be. It's more of a precautionary thing than any sort of invasion of privacy, if that makes you feel any better.
I understand.
It was surprising to learn that you seem to strike a more independent path from your countrymen as far as your inclination towards the workforce of your kingdom.
A decision made by my father, which I have elected to uphold.
I imagine that puts you at odds with the vast majority of your countrymen.
Times, yes.
Usually I would be of the mind that when one is surrounded by enemies or individuals that do not wish to assist in whatever cause I may put my weight behind, the options usually fall into convincing them or dismissing them, to put it softly. If you are to
Indeed.
have your way and re-secure the power of your household, Lord Ethelvain, would you be convincing or would you be dismissive?
In most circumstances, I think the ideal is to be as a mirror. It is their choices and behavior which is reflected back upon them.
You see him grow kind of a very faint smirk before he would shift his eyes over to you, Decker. Give you again like a very small kind of nod gesture. My son, would you say that you are good friends with Lord Ethelvain?
Absolutely.
And you would entrust your own life, if not your family's lives, with this nobleman?
Been doing that daily for some months now. And he's upheld that end of the bargain and has saved me in more than one occasion.
You see him kind of look past you two, up at a blank spot in the ceiling, kind of scratching his chin, taking a sip of his drink, like setting it back down on the desk with like a very solid thud. Before he leans over the desk, clasping his hands together, giving you both a very intent stare as he seems to move into a different energy. The world is in a very fragile place right now, not only because potentially it is coming to an end, unless my brilliant son finds a way to oppose that, which I'm sure you will, but due to the shattered pieces that Asmiliath finds itself in, there is a great deal of opportunity for men who are willing to throw caution to the wind, or at least measured caution. I think that between you, Lord Athelvain, and gesturing over to you, Decker, the Caspians, there is an alliance here that can shift the course of our future, and I am very interested in pursuing it.
I would lean forward.
Alderman Caspian, I consider the Golden Hearts to be nothing less than the inheritors of Duke Braun's intentions. As soon as I heard the news of this unfortunate souring of the relationship, it became the least of my aims to reform his coalition under the Golden Hand, which is sponsored by the King of Giles and opposes the desolation of Tordan.
Lord Athelvain, I think that you misunderstand my intentions. As formidable as Duke Braun was, and as cherished as he was to our family, his vision of a network of alliances to keep us safe is admirable, but certainly is not the path that I am pursuing, or that I am interested in. My goals are a fair bit loftier.
Hi, Father.
If you aim low, then your expectations must match.
If I might add, if we are successful in our endeavor, there will be many that credit us with the salvation of the known world. And that is political capital that, tell me what limit there is to.
The world has had heroes before, and I don't see any of them ruling our governments.
Father, surely you're jesting. If you're downplaying the significance of, well, all I'm saying is that we're either going to be successful, and many kingdoms, let alone common people, will thank the Athelvains and the Caspians for it. We'll be all dead and it won't matter anyway.
My son, I am operating under the assumption that you are going to be successful because you're Caspian. There is no other way. What I am discussing is the future that Asmiliath will be forged into once you are successful. Who is going to be ready to take the initiative once all of the fanfare and the celebration and the parades are done?
He's speaking of a unified rule.
That's certainly a good way to put a spin on it.
Certainly Valoran has more credentials towards that effect than I would.
That is why he is sitting here.
In that case, please do not mistake my intentions in speaking of the former coalition of the Duke. I consider that a starting point. Once our task is complete, there will be 2 Asmiliaths. Those who at least recognize our accomplishment, if not assisted in it, and those who do not. They will be shown the mirror.
Well, perhaps I was mistaken in my assumption of you, Lord Athelvain. If you think that re-establishing the coalition is the right way to proceed, then your ambition is much lesser than I had hoped.
Think of it this way, Alderman. It is a first step for those in Asmiliath who lack your imagination. Those who need to be led into a new world before they can envision it.
And do tell, Lord Athelvain, who is going to be leading them into this new vision? Is it your queen? Is it King Hunfor? Is it the Emperor?
An emperor.
You see him pause, kind of look between Decker and Valorant, kind of back and forth a few times, and then he lasers in on you, Valorant, and you feel the entirety of his intent or his attention focused on you. I have an offer that I would like to put forth on the table. If you are not interested, then we've never had this discussion. Is that understood?
Thoroughly.
Decker, you believe your friend?
Yes, Father.
Turns back to you, Valorant. I want the Athelvain name to rise as high as the Caspian name, and let's not beat around the bush here. There's a lot of ground to cover if that's going to be a reality. I know that you are in great financial debt. I know that your house is in shambles, and there is a lack of leadership. I would like to eliminate some of the problems that's plaguing your house and yourself. Establish a public alliance, and then progress as a pair, as a team, as a unified force, to not only change Liamis and folk, but Asmiliath as a whole, until the great people beneath our rule benefit. Bringing us into that new world that you have envisioned.
And what would be the symbol of this pact?
Folk is tied down with who's related to who and what bloodline that you descend from. Rather barbaric, but it works, I guess. I'm prepared to offer a member of my family to be married to yours. To secure a permanent bond and sign of allegiance between our two houses. and with this marriage would come a very reasonable gift.
Valoran looks at Decker.
My deepest sympathies, Valoran. I don't know if you're ready for her.
Well, I'm glad that you've made the decision already, Decker. He does have a sister.
Plainly, Father, if I were to choose a husband for Danica, I could think of no better man than Valoran. And with your assistance, no better house than the Athelvanes.
He would just move his gaze to you, Valoran.
What you describe, what you describe will be accomplished, but with no offense intended. Surely there must be a more modern approach than a political marriage.
The perception of those around you, those looking in the mirror, need to have certain boxes checked. Having a visible and prominent and permanent show of friendship between our households is essential.
I see. Well,
I don't need an answer from you currently. We do still have a dinner to go through, and I'm sure we'll have a very lovely conversation throughout, but my offer, if it needs to be put into plainer words, is either you can marry my daughter, or Decca can marry your sister, though I hope that that match goes better than the last one she had.
in that realm of possibility, that would depend entirely on Decker.
I would very much prefer you married than I.
Is that the game we're playing?
It's no game. I'll do what is necessary. I just think the bond would be much stronger between a lord and the daughter of an alderman than the third boy of the alderman and a sister to a recently impoverished house.
But you forget, my son, if the valiant Lord Athelvane falls in battle, the next in line is his sister. Well, after his mother, I suppose, but
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. But hope is not a plan. Either has its merits, and neither is a decision that needs to be made this moment.
I'm glad that we've had this talk.
Father, one more thing.
Yes.
And I would reach inside my cloak and I'd pull out the crown. I went through some trouble to obtain this. It was gifted to me by a being of some incredible power. I don't know what it is, but I know it's connected to us.
Rather cryptic.
That's all I know.
Well, we certainly have the academics at our disposal to figure that out.
For the time being, Father, it's yours.
He would kind of lazily drag a drawer open, take the crown, kind of examine it a little bit, give it a nod, and then place it in the drawer. Well, any closing comments, gentlemen? We do have a dinner to attend.
Yes, I think we've kept Mother waiting probably too long. We're all in mortal danger.
So he would stand up, move around his desk, and he would give you a firm handshake, Valoran. The kind of handshake where it's like a good few solid up and downs as he kind of stares at you and leans his head in. Lord Athelvain.
Alderman Caspian.
I appreciate you being presentable. I'm sure my wife will make her appreciation known as well.
Despite the rigors of my formerly impoverished house, I have not lost touch with etiquette.
Perhaps it will be a exhilarating story of redemption then. The trials and tribulations your house has gone through.
One for the storybooks.
Well, we all know who writes history. And then he begins moving towards the door. So, back in the courtyard with Thor, Clay, and the lovely lady, she would be very intently listening to all the stories, just, letting you speak basically as much as you want.
And so then we were in the belly of the dragon. I mean, I don't know how you guys don't know that this thing exists out there. It's a giant dragon in the middle of your swamp. But anyways, it has this giant pot of acid and was like, you can either fight this giant 800-foot being who's never been defeated, or you can reach your hand into the vat, which, obviously Decker did. Very brave. Looked like it hurt a lot. He passed out and missed the whole thing. Or you can give up something that's like of equal value to the thing you're looking for. And so Decker tried to reach in. He pulled out a crown and was like, what the hell is this? And then he fainted because he saw his own bones. And then JD, I was about to go try to kill the dragon, but I was told that was a bad idea after the fact. But then JD gave up his life, which really sucked. And then I just had to take Decker, held him like a little child because he was, passed out. And then we left, and the lizard people just let us out. Also, did you know that your son can talk to lizard people?
Rassius, you have such a way with words. Have you ever considered being a storyteller or a bard?
I've considered something like that. I know how to keep people's attention because I know it attracts them to the stories.
Well, let me openly give you the appreciation for carrying my son valiantly out of this great beast, and I want to extend the offer of anything within the Caspian's reach. Just let us know and we will see it through.
I appreciate that very much, but I think I don't want to ask too much because obviously Decker has put his life out on the line and I'm trying to keep him safe. I feel like that's repayment enough. Even though he keeps trying to kill himself. I don't know, he's reaching into giant vats of acid. Who does that?
Well, perhaps the next time my son plans on reaching into acid, maybe you can offer your arm up instead.
I was going to, but I had the worms like jaws in my hands, and I was about to go plunge it into the dragon's heart, but...
Well, on that appetizing note, I think it is ready to sit down at the table then.
Yeah.
Madam Caspian, if I could be so bold, did I see some gardens out front as we entered?
Yes, there's many public gardens for the people out in the plaza.
Do you happen to keep some here privately in your home?
Oh, I don't say that we have any sort of immense greenery here. What you see around you is probably about as much nature that we have inside of our home. And again, it's like there's a few, I guess, like large potted plants and then the fountain in the center with a little bit of like landscaped greenery kind of growing over it, almost like decorative vines that have been selectively allowed to grow around the structure. That would be the extent of like the nature inside the manor.
As far as those vines are concerned, do any of them grow in kind of a secluded corner that seems like it might be a good place for people to talk away from the center of the room?
Not really. The fountain's kind of in the center, so if you put anything there, you would be picking up the center conversation.
Okay. Yeah. If you excuse me, madam, I would love to go take a look over here.
Yes, as long as you arrive at the table on time, perhaps 10-15 minutes tops.
Yeah,
And she would begin ushering Thor off towards the larger dining room.
And actually, Clay would go over to those plants, and I can read this description. Cast Talk with Plants.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Let's go.
And let's see, it can mention things to me that happened within the past day.
Okay.
It grants. Do you want the full description?
Give me the highlights, or at least what your intentions are, either or.
I wanna ask it what it has heard over the past day.
Okay. Is there any sort of check involved in that, or is that just a flat success?
A flat success. I give it limited sentience and animation. Can communicate with me and follow simple commands. I can question about events in the spell's area, which is in the surrounding 30 feet.
Okay. So give me the plant that you're doing it on, and give me the question that you have for it.
So I guess it would be, you said the vines on the fountain.
Mm-hmm.
That gives me a pretty good scope of the whole,
Mm-hmm.
of the bulk of the room, right?
Yeah.
Within 30 feet of that. Okay. So ask that and just, what's going on, Vine? What have you heard them talking about for the past day?
So as you bestow your energy into the vine, you see it begin to like twist and squirm, almost as if you're like cooking a squid on a flat skillet. Like these almost kind of weird, muscly spasm reactions as it comes to life. And you see one of the leaves near the end of the vine kind of fold over itself, almost like a very rudimentary puppet mouth. And you see like the motion of it kind of like rubbing itself like a dry lip, like someone who hasn't put chapstick on in like 10 years, kind of starting to like work the momentum into it before it kind of careens its head towards you. And you see it kind of like tuck itself in one last time. It goes, what? Who are you?
I'm visiting at the request of the young Caspian there.
But this is incredible.
Yeah, I know. I don't think anyone's ever spoken to you, but I'm sure they've spoken around you.
Yeah, lots of talk. Nothing interesting. The
Ah,
sun's
sure,
pretty
there's
neat.
gotta be.
Do you like the sun?
I'm a big fan of the night stars, but the sun is the greatest of them all.
What do you want?
Oh, and just what have you heard them talking about as they were getting everything set up?
Lots of Caspian. Don't know what that is. Lots of money. Money? Don't even know what money is. Perhaps it's food. Talking about a lot of
Sadly,
food. There was talk of people. Lots of people. People with very sharp sticks. Moving
Oh.
the people. More money. More Caspian. Yes.
Oh, well. You must just have the prime seat of the palace, don't you there, bud?
I don't have a seat. I have no rear.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, been a big help. Do you want some lemons in your water that you're soaking in?
Tickle me.
Well, don't mind if I do. And he'll pull down his braided mustache there and go up.
So to any onlookers, passing by servants, anybody in the general area, they would see Clay reaching down, manhandling his mustache, putting the underside of it to this leaf, and begin furiously brushing it. And as you do, the whole vine begins to like shimmy and shake and almost like make this kind of rattling maraca noise as, I guess, literal years of being unable to scratch an itch is finally relieved, and you very diligently relieve this poor vine of all the pent-up frustration.
Oh, whoops. Well, thanks so much, bud. You got a couple minutes left on this, so feel free to yell at anyone who walks by.
Can it speak to anybody nearby?
It can't,
Okay.
but that's called hope, and that's what
So,
you got to give.
As you move
things.
away, you would see it like snapping its mimicky mouth around and just like at people as they walk by, but of course, none of them give it any sort of mind.
And extrapolating from the information provided, sounds like it's a troop movement.
Something of that nature, yeah.
Clay will log that down in the old mine palace and hurry back on towards Thord and the Madame.
So, the Golden Hearts, as you are ushered in your various times into the dining room, this very, not going to use the word extravagant, overindulgent feast has been prepared for you. This table is perhaps 40 or 50 feet long. It could easily seat an entire party of people, and when I say party, I mean a large ball-esque kind of party. As you are all sat down at your various seats and the servants bring forth, kind of the first, round of drinks and begin the meal, the conversation would slip into things much more mundane, asking about the companions' history or their families or where they're from, where they grew up, things that you would almost expect to have when you've been brought home by one of your companions to meet their parents. Eventually, about halfway through the meal, this is about an hour or two into it, a door on the far end of the room would open mid-conversation. Everyone's still going back and forth. Decker, I imagine you'd probably be one of the first ones to kind of break away and glance over. you would see Danica, the very familiar twin sister to you, kind of leaned in the open door frame. The rest of the party, as you kind of move your gaze that way, you would see a young woman the same age as Decker, believe it or not. And where Decker was lucky to benefit from dashing, charismatic, wealthy upbringing, Danica has also found that same strand of luck. She is beautiful and rather charismatic. She certainly carries herself in a very confident way, whether that comes from money or her attitude towards most people. But she's kind of leaned against the wall, you know, her head kind of crooked to the side, her arms crossed against her chest, just kind of looking between each person. And then as she meets eyes with you, Decker, she'd kind of lower her gaze a little bit and then knock her head backwards.
I'm sorry. Is she welcome in here to my knowledge?
As far as you are aware from what your mother and father said earlier, she's not invited to the dinner.
But she just plainly made herself seen.
Yeah. Well, she's playing the game of not entering the room, but standing there.
I look at my mother. Is she close to me, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
I look at my mother. I look over at Danica. May I?
Kind of looks over at you, looks over at your sister. Make it brief. We do have company.
Yes, mother. And I would hop up and, just short of running over, run up and give her a big hug, another twirl about.
So as you both embrace, you know, it's clear, like, as you're running up to her, her expression softens and grows, you know, pretty excited to see you again. As soon as her feet touches the ground, she kind of, like, pushes herself away from you enough to have a conversation, and she jabs a finger in your face, like, you son of a bitch, I swear to God, you make me marry that man. You're never gonna see me again, I swear to God.
Look.
You are falling on this sword. He has a sister. I'm sure she's lovely.
I'm sure she is too. You make more sense. If I made more sense...
Do you hear yourself? How much have you been listening to Father's bullshit?
How much have you not?
Literally nothing that comes out of his mouth goes in my ear.
All right, look. We obviously don't have much time. What will it take? What do you want?
I want to live my life. I don't want to be tied down to some... I guess arguably passable man, but...
Yes, I can assure you, he is a good man. What are the odds that in any other arranged marriage you could say that for certain with the voucher of your brother? Do you think I would allow you to be married to just anybody? If I didn't agree with it with all of my heart, I would have been the one to tell Father absolutely not. And, however, I told Father that, in my estimation, that was the best course of action. Not only for political alliances, but for you.
He like pushes her lip up to your lip.
Yeah.
You're speaking way too much like Father. It's scaring me. We'll have a deeper conversation later. But at least tell me he can take a joke.
Oh, you shit. What? Oh, of course.
Valorant stands up.
Everyone kind of looks over at you.
Am I missing something? A joke what?
Wait, why did you stand up, Valorant?
Valorant starts walking over.
She kind of looks at you, looks at Decker, looks at you, looks at Decker. Kind of like...
Behave, Danica. You don't have to be an ass for ass's sake.
She gives you like one last little like... And then turns and kind of like presents herself in a more Caspian manner. Lord Athelvain, welcome to our extravagant home.
Is this the cherished daughter of which I was told?
Cherish is a very, lofty word.
Perhaps. I was told of your
You muted,
existence,
Rob.
but not of your name. Would you give it to me?
She kind of overly daintily, as if she's like mocking the aspect of it, reaches her hand out towards you. Yes, I am Danica Caspian, the only daughter and the prettiest of the Caspians.
Well, you're not a liar. And he takes her hand and just brushes his lips against her knuckles.
Mm-hmm.
And he's giving it his full splendor, just all of his lifetime as a folkish noble, being in these situations, being somewhat eligible as the only son of his house,
Mm-hmm.
just beaming his charisma.
So she, basically waits through this, I guess, greeting. And there's a moment where she kind of looks back at Decker, looks over at Valor, and looks back at Decker. You see just like the hint of mischief in her eye, and turns back to Valor and... Lord Athelvain, please do tell, what is the standard amount of cows that are traded for wives and folk these days?
You remind me of someone that I know very well back home. But there aren't enough cows and folk.
I don't hate you, Lord Athelvain, and that is something that I don't often say.
Well, I'm gratified.
Well, seeing as I am not allowed into the family dinner, and she kind of speaks up and leans into the room a little bit, perhaps we can find another time to get to know one another.
Nonsense. He holds his hand out.
What are you alluding to, sir?
Now he actually reaches forward and takes her hand and says, "Join this reception as my guest." And he begins to lead her into the room.
As she's kind of pulled away, she would look back at you, Dicker, and you would just see this, like, look of conflict. There's a bit of, like, is he really he's really doing this? And then she is led inside. Your father seems not excited about this entrance, but your mother seems to take it in stride, being a bit more accepting of somewhat problematic or unexpected turns. And she just very gracefully stands up, moves one of the seats out for Danica to sit next to Lord Valoran, and then retakes her seat. And that's where we'll end our session.